Okay, welcome to Stampscape's Friday Night Live here. I'm going to try a little experiment here with the red holographic foil. All right, now this foil to me, on my first experiment, it wasn't that usable with only black ink. You can see the amount of contrast in here. So even like a very bold image just didn't stand out very much against it in these darker portions like this. And this area in here was just kind of moving around. It's like, I don't know, it's like jello or something like that. There was nothing stationary in here. Now, I've been doing some splatter painting in the background, and that kind of stabilizes things a little bit and makes it useful with the lighter tones, like the light pink, the yellow colors. There's a gold foil that comes in the multi-pack at least. And I found those to work really good with minimal usage of lighter values in here. But here's the thing that I'm going to try. I'm going back to some white Brilliance ink on here, white pigment ink, okay? And we're not going to use the hero hues or standard types of pigment ink again. I don't like using, kind of specialized things if I don't have to these days. And just using StazOn over the top of these foils is working really fantastic. I don't have to go and spray seal and whatnot. So, but we need to use something that can be utilized in a media surface compatibility factor. But this is one of the most dynamic surfaces that I've come across as far as usability and scenes, so let's make use of this red one if we can. Hello, Linda and Bugs, how are you tonight? All right, so Linda, this is going back to something you asked me about. You said, hey, when I was doing something on this foil, it's like, why didn't you just white it out, do a white out in the background? So I'm going to try it on this one right here. I thought, well, we have to be able to use this one right here. I'm going to do it in a mirror situation too. I'm going 5x7 here. I don't work in 5x7s too often, but I thought that would be a good one. I like going a little bit larger when I'm doing an experiment too, just so we have a lot more surface to kind of play around with here. Hello, CM. All right, so Brilliance ink. Let's see if this Brilliance ink pad is inked up enough. If not, I will add some inker fluid to it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use a decent amount of white on here, I suspect. So why don't we just add that in there like so. I go through my Brilliance inks, I guess just any type of pigment ink quite often, as well as the StazOn these days. I should buy 5 bottles of these types of inks right here. White and black. All right, so ripped paper towel cloud technique, okay? So this is something that I just showed that class too. A lot of people hadn't done any landscape types of stamping at all. So it was good to show them the torn paper towel technique. Hello, Carolyn. Good evening to you too. Torn paper towel. Let's see which way this is. Which way the grain is running here. I think I'm going cross grain right here, which is what I want. A little bit more of a loopy type of thing. Refine your tear a little bit, get a little bit more rounded. And let's see how this goes. If you get the right kind of, whatever contour there that you think would be good as a cloud, go with that one. All right. All right, now here's what the thing that I don't like about this is that I like the fact that we can get all kinds of different types of stability on here and different types of textures on here. I don't like the fact that we have to spray seal this, only because I've been using the StazOn lately, which you don't have to, so. But if it's the only thing that's going to work on here, in terms of getting this type of look, then, we go for it here. And spray sealing is not that big of a deal. It's just that if you don't have to do it with certain types of techniques and they look really good, then that's one less thing that we have to think about. And some people just don't have spray sealants. I'd recommend a spray sealant for everyone. In some cases, it costs as much as like one type of stamp pad or one alcohol marker. But you can use the spray sealant like on everything that you do and improve everything. So even if it's just for brighter types of ink saturation and protection, getting a Krylon UV clear, UV resistant clear. It's just a really great way to go. All right, so let's see right here. This is the regular mirrored cardstock. This is not the printable vinyl. Printable vinyl is like a completely, I don't know, in some cases they look really similar. They have similar types of visual properties, but in terms of media compatibility, I don't know if they're the opposite, but they're very, very different, okay? All right, now what I'm doing right here in terms of this type of application is you start applying a lot more around the edge of this type of it is a template, you make this into kind of a template here, and you're adding it down like that, okay? But then you add a lighter amount as you move away from this edge. So you start on the edge like this and go like halfway at its wettest point, or just when you want to build it up a little bit more there. And then you transition it down like that. I mean, I can already see this is, going to really affect that. You know what I mean? See where this is coming into that darker band like that? I mean, this darker band, on this type of foil, it's moving around like that. So we already have some visual stability here. Now, the thing about this ink is it's not going to adhere to the surface. Even when it dries completely, I'd be able to just wipe my finger right in there. It'll come right off. That being said, if you make any mistakes like that, you can just wipe it off, go over it again. Now, here's the thing too. This is kind of floating on here. It's floating on here when it's wet, and it's floating on here when it dries because it's not adhering to it. So we'll see if I can use some StazOn ink to print on here. My hypothesis is that when I ink this up as fast as StazOn dries and I apply that down on there, if I don't have this moist enough and if I don't lift it off fast enough, StazOn ink dries so fast, I speculate that as I remove that, instead of transferring the black to paper here, I'm guessing that it might be stamping out in the bare foil, but it might just be removing the white. So I'm getting the white on here as opposed to transferring the black to here. Let's see how it goes. If that happens, I'm going to transition just to the Brilliance black ink, and that's white right there, but I'll just use Brilliance Graphite Black. All right, and again, it's, a lot of people just don't have the Brilliance ink, so, it's something that, I'm trying to move away from media that people do not have. But, that being said, I think everyone should have a Brilliance black and white you know what I mean? You don't have to get the full range. I don't. I just have 2 pads. But the thing is, it opens up so many different possibilities in terms of non-porous types of surfaces like this. You can take the Brilliance white like this and you use it on the vinyl. It adheres completely, and you can use unbelievably dry media on there like chalks and colored pencils to color on there. That to me is an unbelievable property of some sort of kind of forgotten media, which is the Brilliance types line of inks, okay? And like I said, you don't have to get, I don't know how many different colors there are out there. 15 at this point in time. They're discontinuing some. This is a 20-year-old line of inks, so they're just not very popular, but nothing else has come out there to kind of, update them. So my fear is that they just disappear for good, and there's nothing else out there like them. There's other types of things you can use in place of them on certain types of media, but there's just not anything else on other types of media for certain types of applications, okay? All right, so that being said, I'm not affiliated with them at all. I barely used my pads, my Brilliance pads, until, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, and it was like, oh my God, you can use, iridescent papers like Star Dreams to stamp on. You can stamp on foils with them. We can use a lot of different papers and surfaces that we probably have in our collection of media, but now you can use it to stamp on if you have something that will dry on there. Okay, no, so that being said, StazOns can also dry in there if you get a StazOn white, but you can't blend it out like this, If you put StazOn white on here and you just tap it like this, it's like that would be dry right now, and you wouldn't be blending it out anymore. It would just, you'd have to tap it again and just go down there, and you'd get like 2 taps, I'm guessing. Okay. All right, now here's the thing that I already noticed with this one. This is like the Recollections foils, unbelievably, because this is so mirrored. I'm picking up some of that pink on here. I don't know if you can see that little pink on here. So that being said, I don't know, I might be mistaken. Maybe this is adhering to it, if that red on there is coming off on here. I don't know. Maybe it's grabbing onto it a little bit more than I thought it would. If it's removing it. Okay. Okay, now see, now after you apply that down, you don't have to get things perfect either, and you can be kind of moving this around as you're doing this. You can go like this, and it can move a little bit. It just makes it look a little bit more fluid, I guess, in terms of like a moving, clouds are moving, okay? So what you do is you come in here after you apply that, and then to soften up the edges, you don't have to do this over the whole thing like this, but adding it in some areas like this really kind of loosens it up a little bit, and then you get that more kind of airy, kind of naturalistic, I don't know, kind of movement to your clouds like that. See where I've come above the whatever that template edge right there, and it looks a little bit better like that. Here, let me see, let me put it in the dark like that. Okay, so I don't know, I like the look of it so far. Okay, yeah, Linda, so we're gonna test this out there and see how it goes. Let's see. I'm so confused with the different papers. Confused, that means we have a lot of different things these days to consider, don't we, Linda? It's not just cardstock anymore, like white. Hello, Liz. Kay, good to see you. Donna, thanks for joining in. If anyone else is watching, thank you for joining in. Hope you're having a good Friday. Thank God it's Friday. TGIF here. Okay, so I'm going to stamp in some larger trees on here. I figured with my spruce large like this, if something is going to remove my ink, it'll be a bold image like that. So that's just the one to go with right here. Okay, so that being said, I'm gonna go up farther. Let's really layer some of these clouds like this, okay? And here's the thing, when you're doing these clouds, make some maybe a little bit more transparent, especially on this type of surface like this, so you get variation, okay? Let's see. Hello, Diana. GD4M. I think that's what, I don't know, someone used it as like your acronym. All right, so adding that down like that. And if you ever add too much, just take a dry area of your cotton ball or get a new cotton ball and just dab it right in there. It'll come right off. Remember, this isn't vinyl that we're using. So one of the things that Linda in the Facebook comments for one of her postings is like, when you're working on the printable vinyl that has that emulsion coating on there that's made to accept and dry the inkjet inks like really fast. So if you go like this on the printable vinyl, instead of it being something that you can really manipulate, move around, and even like erase if you want to, the printable vinyl, it's like the opposite, it's Once you lay it down, it's like adhered to it because it's it's a surface that's designed to accept and to dry those inks that you're applying on there, even if it's like a photograph with a lot of different colors and tones and media printed out on it. Okay. All right. So see, it's kind of muting some of those tones in there. Okay. Tones in the paper, I mean. And one of the things about pigment inks, what I always remind people is that when you're applying them white over a darker surface than white, be it dye-based inks or colored pencil, anything, okay, they dry, meaning the pigment inks, they dry, the white dries more see-through than what it looks like than when it's freshly applied. I don't know what it is. It's like reflecting more light or something like that. So it will kind of, oh, it'll blend in with the background a little bit more, which is kind of good in a way because sometimes if you're doing these types of applications, it doesn't look so cohesive. And sometimes when it dries darker and more see-through, meaning you can see the things that you've stamped in the back or the colors you've applied, media you've applied, and it integrates, I guess, visually a lot more. Okay, now see, even just touching this down here, it's like, if I touch this just lightly, it's just like any types. It's like the silver and gold foil. The Recollections a little bit less so, but kind of. Recollections, by the way, when I'm referring to that one, it's the one at Michael's that I'm often pointing people to that comes in all kinds of packs. It's a little bit cheaper and whatnot. It's not as mirrored, but it's excellent to stamp on. But it's a little bit more porous, okay? It's not super porous, you can still wipe things off of there and, as far as pigment ink goes, but keep it in mind. All right, now I'm just hoping that, when I stamp a tree on here, that it won't just remove all of my white ink that's on the background there. But if it does, all you have to do is you just go right back in there with your template and add that white right back in there where it's been removed, right? So it's no big deal. I guess you can do one of those things with a reverse impression on here too, if you know what I mean. It's putting like all black on here or whatever, and then stamping an image into it, and then when you lift it up, it's removed all the ink, with a clean stamp. I wouldn't do it on this one though, because again, there's so much contrast. I usually do it with my like gold foil or silver foil. I don't know if I would go with something as loud as this. Because I don't even know if we'd be able to see those reverse impressions, even if it's a fairly bold one. All right, so adding that in like that. Oh, yeah. I want to leave some space for some splatter painted white Dr. Martens in there. See this right here? See this band right here? These straight bands in here? I really want to break that up, so I'm going to bring in some more of this right here. Let's see if we can close off some of these. The full lengths or something like that. So see that right there? Yeah, we can still see it a lot, huh? Here, let me add more down here like that. So just always get your bearings, hold it up like that and see how it's looking. Okay, let's see. We need a little bit of merger here. It is fun to do this on these foils. I especially like these types of clouds, like on the Star Dream blue lapis lazuli. That's one of my favorite surfaces to do this type of thing on here. Here it is right here on the lapis lazuli. If you guys didn't see this one, I did this one in my class the other night, the live Zoom class, but this is the tropical scene right here. There's the hot sun right there, except in this case it's moon. Just two impressions of the Palm Island, but then all the clouds up here on the lapis lazuli. And look at that type of thing right here. And this doesn't have anything down here, but if I stamp something down here, a couple palm trees here in the corner or something like that, or, you know, little figure in here, or a bird or something like that, that would be really cool. Or, you know, quote, this is like, you know, prime real estate for some sort of quote stamp in that area there, because it would look like it's really floating on the surface like that. So I really love this one right here. It's just, I don't know, I think it's kind of, and it's like ethereal or something like that, especially with that reflected area down there. I think those look like kind of, you know, pretty realistic looking clouds like that. I mean, this thing like here, you know, it takes like, I don't know, 60 seconds. I don't know. It might have taken me I don't know, 3 minutes, but that was like at most. I think that. Okay. So, anyways, hello, Phyllis, Kathy, Cheryl, good to see you. Alicia, thanks for joining in here. I had a chance to get on here. It's like my son's over at the gym working out on his night workout. I thought, okay, let me see. What scene can I kind of complete or experiment within a given amount of time? Actually, if I don't finish by the time they get back, then I don't have to cook. It's like I'm still in the live stream. I don't mind cooking. Okay, so we have this one coming in here like this. So I have this little strip in here. Okay, so here's one of those things. We get the benefit of, you know, the effects that this type of surface provides, but it just, I don't know, it still is a little bit overpowering. I was going to say, but it's not so. I guess it's, I don't know, it's dominant for sure. Is it overpowering? Maybe. It's these line structures like this. It's not just the reflective thing, it's those straight lines running through everything from left to right. And it breaks up the imagery a little bit because there's a huge amount of contrast. It's almost like it's black like that. I mean, I'm in my room right here, and I don't have the lights on in the room other than on my desk, so it's really dark up there. But you know, so sometimes it'll look just like, like this. You know, if you have, you know, you're looking at it in better lighting and your ceiling is a little bit lighter. Not like that maybe, but like, you know, I don't know. I mean, the contrast in here, this is like an extreme example of someone looking at it in their room or something like that at night. Okay, there, you know what I mean? It's going to be a lot lighter during daytime. So, in just regular viewing conditions, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a good time to work on it, like in this type of situation, like there, you know, which is most of the time in my room here. Because then I have to compensate and get it looking good in like an extreme situation, you know, where it'll look fine in a lesser situation. Or I don't know if I'm kind of overcompensating based on my, you know, viewing conditions in this room here. I don't know. And of course, my lamps are, you know, I have two lamps coming in at 45-degree angles, like shooting on this right here. And they're soft boxes, so there's I don't know, 6 bulbs in each one that are like, I don't think they're 100 watt. They're fluorescent, so it's not like, you know, incandescent here. But I don't know, I do get a little bit hot in here. But that being said, there's a lot more kind of contrast from those lights coming in. Okay, so let's here. Yeah, they can look like mountains, huh? And a matter of fact, Linda, that whole kind of rip paper towel thing, when people first started doing that, it was for the purpose of mountains mainly. I didn't see people doing clouds with it, but they were usually doing background mountains, you know, on their papers. And they weren't doing it in Pigment Ink. They were just doing it in, you know, dye-based inks or something like that on cardstocks. All right, so that's what we have right here. Let's take a look and see what it's going to look like in that mirror situation right here. All right, so that's what we have here. All right, fairly dramatic. So my hope, let's take a look here and see how it's going to go. Um, I'm thinking right now, the thing that's going through my head is I wonder if I should heat set this a little bit first. I don't like heat setting foils too much. I mean, I can do a light heat setting where it's not going to warp this at all. But you get that thing on these metallics like this where it starts bending a little bit. If you put a little bit of heat on there. I mean, you can heat it from the back too, but oftentimes it just, even if it warps a little bit, then you have to kind of counter bend it a little bit. But I never feel that it gets like completely flat again, you know, as it exists right here. So I think I'm going to try to just stamp directly on here without doing any type of heat setting. Now this will dry, air dry, if you give it time, okay? But remember, if it wipes off for you, it's because it's Brilliance Ink on foil cardstock, which never adheres, so you're just gonna have to spray seal this anyways. Now, a lot of times when I talk about spray sealing too, on these types of surfaces, I don't want to interfere with some of the holographic aspects of this. So if I give it too thick of a coating, sometimes I'm wondering if it's going to affect the holographic nature of it. Okay, but this one here, this paper, be it this red one or here's this one in kind of a pinkish tone, which is like different looking than this, right? It's the same pack, just different colors out of the pack. I just think that we can just do about practically anything to this and you'll still have these types of looks on here. Okay. All right, so here's one thing. I'm going to splatter paint this now and get some stars in there. That's going to be the thing that's going to be a pain if I have to if it removes a bunch of stars and I have to, it looks all kind of uneven on there. I hope it doesn't. But this is one of the things about going into your room, and we were talking about this in the workshop too, because there was, a couple instructors in there as well. We were talking about, how you shouldn't be afraid, to experiment and try things out. And that's so true. And one of the things that I was thinking I should have said was the mentality I go into all of my pieces, or even my workstation right here, my desk, is I see this, my craft room is like my craft lab. And when you think about your craft room as your crafting lab, it's your laboratory, I think it just kind of changes kind of the mindset as terms of like experimentation. It's almost like that's the whole purpose of it. And I think that's really conducive to creativity and just, no fear. Although I do have some trepidation with certain types of techniques. Especially if it's live like this. I don't know. I don't care too much, but like on this paper, like the other day, I was thinking, man, I don't know if this is going to work out, and it's not really great because you can feel like the nerves of the viewership. I don't know if it's in my head, but I think you can actually feel it. I noticed it when I was doing live demonstrations at like conventions and stuff. The energy is, you can feel it in the air. And then there's this kind of relief, it's like, it's nothing where, something, I think something's gone wrong, but they just can't see kind of the end result. So sometimes, when you're working on something, it doesn't look very good, like in the, I don't know, 80% of the process, and you kind of, you do the end touches and, the final touches, and it all comes together. Okay, I was going to put this on here, but I forgot. Let's do the trees here first, and then I can work in some larger stars. This is what it's looking like right here. Not enough, really, that splatter painting in here, but I'm going to put in those larger dots with this afterwards. And remember, we can still tweak our white in there a little bit after we stamp our trees. Okay, so let's see here. The basics are the best, Alicia. Oftentimes, there's a lot of things that come out. All right, I love the entire industry. I love my fellow manufacturers. etc. But sometimes there are things that are released that in appearance look like they should be really good in terms of the function that they've been, you know, kind of advertised for. I don't know if they've been designed for that, to tell you the truth. But sometimes they kind of go counter to, they almost go counter to functionality in terms of their design, in terms of ergonomics and all that type of stuff. But, if we're doing something like clouds here, clouds are, something that's really soft. I don't know of any other type of medium out there or accessory that's been designed that's more conducive to make a soft little cloud than a cotton ball like that. And 100% pure cotton too. It's absorbent. So it's absorbent and it's super soft. And as a matter of fact, if someone's doing like a little diorama or something like that as a kid or whatever adults, oftentimes we use cotton as clouds, right? To put up in their skies and things like that. It looks something like soft. I mean, you can do this. This could be a snowy terrain or something like that, as long as it's not on this red foil here. Or even winter, Wonderland, but in hell. Okay, I re-inked my StazOn ink here. But yeah. You use those objects that are really conducive for the purpose that you're, using them for. So, if you want to go for, clouds to me are kind of moving and things like that. So, I do love those, the look of the, I do love the look of the, those plastic templates that are for clouds, and it gives it a really sharp, kind of, you know what I mean? It's, in those looping types of looks like that. I think that looks good. I'm not against those or anything like that. I don't think they look realistic, but they look stylized and pretty cool. So, but I just, I like things a little bit more varied too. Because if I was to do that type of look, like that template look, if I did that like 10 times, to tell you the truth, I think I'd be a little bit bored with it, even if it was, spread out over the course of like a month or two. This, like here, I never get the same cloud formation twice. I don't know, which, might be bad for some people. Now, see that right there? I kind of skewed out, I went "Wah," like that, but it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so the re-inked StazOn ink, it's adhering to that just fine. Now, see, in these areas where the StazOn ink goes like that, if I wipe into that, I don't think that's going to be floating on top of that white foil. So I think I have kind of adhered that white pigment ink in those areas like that. I've covered it up completely, but like this area in here, it's not going to be so subject to kind of removal like that, okay? Now, I'm not getting a real dark black, like 100% black, StazOn black impression right here, but it's not too bad. It's like a 90% black, I would say. I need to be more careful about this. See, I've been stamping StazOn black on bare foils, okay? And it like adheres to it instantly and it's drying. And, when I lift it off, it's like sticking to it. I got to remember that that white pigment ink down there is kind of floating on the surface. It's not adhered. So I'm stamping kind of wet into, it's still a little bit moist, but even if that white pigment ink was dry, it's, like I said, it's very easy to remove it. All I have to do is just touch my finger like that to it, with my grubby, oily finger, oils on there. And it will just remove instantly, okay? So that being said, if you first start doing this and you get a little bit of a skew like that, just kind of know that that's probably going to happen. It's happened to me all the time. But, practice on a separate piece before you go on there or something like that. Okay, that one came out really light. I think my StazOn pad is drying here as I'm blabbing away like this, okay? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just didn't apply enough ink. If it comes out a little bit lighter, no big deal. You'll get a little bit of variation in there. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, this came out like different values like that. It comes out a little bit lighter. It just represents a tree that's farther off in the distance. That's what we say in scenic stamping. Okay. So we have that right there. Let's see here. See, like, so see that band of like really light things like that. It's showing through some of the stays on solid areas a little bit. I can live with that though. Okay. So I do think that that white underneath the black helped it. Okay, because it's made it a little bit more opaque, but that dominant little band, let's move it up and down. See, it's like that, and it's moving down like that. You know, you know what I mean? We don't want our objects to look like, they're being X-rayed or something like that. So, but that I think that stopped it enough. Kind of. All right. Let's see. Let's go with leafless pine here for a little bit of a taller, different textured object. All right. All right, let's go. I'm going to go pretty big with this. I'll go really high like that. All right, now on this one, I don't want to blur it. Okay, like that. That one's a really light impression for some reason. I think, oh, you know what this one's doing right here? I think, yeah, right here, I did get that removal of white. Okay, let me try to go a little bit faster. Yeah. Okay, so this is what this did. Oh, this is what this did. It did that thing that I was wondering about. It, it, it removed that. It didn't. That's not black up there. That's a reverse impression into the white because I have that white ink on here, and then it went black there where it's adhering right in that thing. So I didn't get any transfer. Well, I didn't. If there is, it was barely any. So barely any transfer of ink over the white areas with this right here. I guess it's because there's less ink on there. Maybe I held the stamp down too long. Let me try to go faster. No, I don't know. It's just not doing it with this one. I don't know why. All right. It's kind of an interesting look though, because I still get the impression of that right there, but see, I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if you can see right here. Okay, so that's black in that area, but right here, let me put that light in there. See that right there? You can see that light going right across there because that area right there, it removed the white ink right there. But when we look at it like this, it's just, we get the impression of that tree, but it's a positive negative thing. It's positive here, but it's a reverse impression right here within that space. So I don't know. It's going to have to be a part of that look. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know anything with it right. Okay, like I said, if I did the Brilliance ink though, I think it would just apply right over the top of it. Let me use some of that Brilliance ink on here. Okay, so the Brilliance ink is thicker. It won't adhere. It'll be another thing that I'm gonna have to spray seal right here. So those trees right there, because of that reverse out impression in that white, look like they're in back of these trees. Now let me just go with the Brilliance black here. Make sure this is inked up enough here. This is a thick ink, okay? And it's the same, substance as the white ink right here, so I don't think it's going to remove it. But I don't know. Well, let's see it. Yeah, okay, so this one applies right over the top of it. Like I said, it's a thicker ink, so and maybe the spruce large transferred on there more because I had just re-inked this, so maybe there was a slathering of ink on here doing that like that. I don't know. All right, so this one right here, this one to me looks like it's in front of, or at least as close to us as the spruce trees, but then these other ones in the background using the stays on are farther back in the distance. Mirror card situation. That. It looks a little bit too symmetrical like that. Well, let's see. Let's add this in here like this. Okay, so I'm going back to the stays on for here, adding some trees in the foreground, like so. Okay, now this one really kind of wiggles around because this surface right here is not, it's like stamping on glass, okay? So it's a little bit different feeling even from stamping on the Brilliance ink, the Brilliance white, okay? But the stays on this silver will dry really fast. I mean, for as much ink as I'm applying right here, okay? So it's like that. Oops. See where I missed that little area right there? I'm going to apply that down. With the stays on ink, I have to stamp faster than I usually do, because if I hold this down longer, unlike dye-based inks on cardstock or something like that, I get a lighter impression because it starts drying on this rubber right here, and I pull that off and it's like pulled off. It's removed, the ink, as opposed to transferring it over. It's like it's not counterintuitive, but it's just, it's kind of the opposite type of strategy, impression strategy than I've, been used to over the years. Okay, so we have our border like that. This goes down like so. All right. It's kind of interesting. All right, now let's make some of these areas up here a little bit more varied. I'm trying to think. This would be, I'm trying to think of where I'd put a word stamp as far as like this composition goes. Maybe down here where it's darker, I'd do it in white ink. I need to get a stays on white re-inker. Stays on white pigment ink, I should say. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Paulette. Glad you like it, Liz. All right, so this right in here, see, everything's a little bit symmetrical. I shouldn't have stamped this one like this, I should have varied these a little bit more. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some white pigment ink in here. I'm going to let this dry a little bit more. And we'll see how this goes. I'm going to put a little bit of cloud, misty formation in here a little bit so that this right here isn't so symmetrical, okay? But we'll also do that in the sky. Okay, so white pigment ink, white acrylic paint pen. Oh, look at all my clouds too. They're all they're a little bit mono value in here too, so we'll vary that a lot more too. Okay, so a little bit larger dots, like stars like that, and see how they'll look. See, those larger ones they stand out against the background a little bit more. And again, we kind of need that stability in here with all these, because of the change. When I'm talking about stability, it's because when you're doing this, this is a card that moves, okay? Just depending on what angle someone has it at or how stationary it is, it's always going like this. That's why I like to have these kind of stabilizing types of elements in here, our media and stamped, designs in there. But especially I like this texture to do that as well. All right, so that is that. Let's grab a, let's see, I tossed out all of my Q-tips that were out on my desk. We're going to take a Q-tip like so, go back to our Brilliance ink. Hello, Jeannie. Ah, Jeannie, what are you stamping? Are you stamping a full-size scene right now? Okay, so cotton swab, ink up. Here's the thing, though. After you ink up like this, with most cotton swabs, okay, blot it out like that, okay. Remove a lot of the ink that you have on there, okay, and then use a really light touch. Don't try to get this in one application. You want to, the ideal kind of combination is if you start applying this. I'm going to make some of these stars kind of look like they're glowing. I'll probably go with for the the larger ones in here. And you want to get it where that kind of glowing look appears in about 10 taps or so. It's still a little bit moist on here. Yeah. But let's see. Sometimes what you're doing too, like on a mirrored cards like this, cardstock, is when you tap this down on here, these little glowing stars, you remove the dot that's been applied because, again, it's a very non-porous surface, so you can remove like the painted dot or the acrylic dot that you've just applied. And so you just take your pen and then you add that dot in the center of one of these glowing areas, just right over the top of it again, okay? These little things like this too, especially if you have them like little, like fireflies. Not in this situation, but you have some trees down here in a meadow or whatever, and you're doing fireflies. Let's say I'm doing this over like a little green dot or something like that. It really does. It obscures that little green dot, so oftentimes, if not every time, I go back into it and just reapply that little green dot right on top of it again. Okay, so let's see here. Some glitter types of, or metallic red or pink in here I think would look really good. Okay, now that, like I said, that white in here, it's a little bit heavy-handed right now, but like I said, it dries darker than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied. So like in here, I'm thinking I need, a little bit of contrast again. Plus I want to go down here too a little bit just to break up the monotony of all of these similar forms like that. So let's do that right now. And just pray that it comes out, otherwise utter kind of emotional devastation. That's what I was thinking about. That's my joke. Sometimes it's like, when you try to convince someone to take a chance on something that they want to do, but they're not sure if they should try it or not because they might ruin their piece or something like that, which rarely happens, if you just apply a little bit of like pigment ink or something. Like if I want to make that cloud a little bit lighter, sometimes people are like a little bit gun shy because they like how it looks, pretty much, but something in them is saying, something, might need a little bit more of something. So they're what happens is they get to a place within their cards or their scenes or whatever, and they think that it needs something, but they just don't want to take a chance of ruining it, right? Okay. And I don't know. I always tell people what my painting teacher always used to say to us, which is, it's not precious, my beginning teacher teaching painting class. So I always hear that in my head anytime I'm thinking about trying something on something. So my joke is like, okay, well, the worst that can happen is utter kind of emotional devastation, for forever if something doesn't come out. So why not take the chance? But I tell people that, my painting teacher's advice too. So I'm passing it on. Okay, so anyways, you see that right there? That helps it though, doesn't it? Like that, getting that little bit of a lighter tone in there. So there's a little, now see, that's probably going to dry and it's going to look a little bit darker again. So you build it up and hit it again just right over the top of it and get it to where you want it to be from a value standpoint, okay? And see, it's getting a little bit more opaque the more you add in here, like right here and here. That's a pretty opaque application of it. We're down here, you know, I mean, we still have some of those other tones showing through. In theory, I mean, you can take also, I mean, I'm not doing it here, but you can take some black like this, and in these darker areas of the cloud, you can apply some black on there, and that will black out some of those areas too. I should probably do it on this one, but again, you know, when I'm doing these things, I'm trying to go a little bit more minimal, you know, in terms of my applications and amount of media used, even though it's just one more pad and I've already used it on these trees, but I want to try to keep things as simplistic as possible in terms of, you know, the processes. Okay, so going in with some of this white pigment ink down low like this. Seems like my exposure, I forgot to change my exposure with this video here, okay? Okay, so adding this in like so, and again, don't add like a big blob. And I'm not adding this across the whole thing because I want some of these, you know, this area here to look a little bit different than this one right here. I want some of these trees to look a little bit different from one another, even though it's the same tree. Let's see. And you can go up as far as you want it to go, you know, just, you know, gauge, hold it at arm's distance and see how it's looking like that. See that white coming into that area down there. And see this, you know, these trees right here are semi-monotonous right here. So let's add a little bit of white pigment ink over some of these so that they don't look, from a lighting standpoint, so similar, okay? So let's go in here and I'll add some of this white pigment ink because this one's already a little bit lighter than this one anyway, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just going to go with that. That's the way it just happened, right? So we'll use it more, we'll make it more purposeful and then add in a little bit more white ink to where it's lighter. And then we get that variation between this one and this one. See, I'm kind of adding it on one side too, so it's a little bit lighter on that side and darker on that side. I mean, you know, that's not, it doesn't have to be like that, but I think it just varies at, you know, a good degree. And let's go over some of these reverse areas in here. Just, yeah, I don't know, I'm just kind of breaking up that, it's kind of weird breaking up a reverse impression in there because the ink is not there. So it's kind of weird, but varying it a little bit more. And see, this area here gets really solid, but this area is lighter right here. So let's just make that a little bit lighter too. It'll be some mist moving across. And see right here, that impression, I think that wanted to go, oh, I know what it did. I did get a reverse impression in here. That's why it looked like it looked a little anemic. So some ink applied and some ink removed. And see this area right here in the cloud, that was like an open area or a more open area. So it gets darker like that. So this area right in here that gets a little bit semi-reverse impression and thus lighter, I'm just going to make that lighter from a strategic standpoint like this, okay? So you make it more purposeful, okay? And that's kind of what kind of art school is like. You know, you come up with an accident and then something happens, be it undesirable uh, or just unplanned and good, and then you come up with your reason why you did it purposefully after the fact during the critiques. All right, so let's take a look at this now. Let me see. Let me alter that a little bit more. See that right there? A little mist like that. I think the you know, now that I think about it too, you can go in like this too, and you can put more clouds like this. You can put some clouds in front of your trees too. I'm not gonna do it here, but maybe we should. I don't know. You can put some more clouds in front of that, like the trees are coming out of the clouds. I don't know. I think that might be kind of interesting. I might have to do it a little bit now I think about it, because I haven't done that before and just thought about it here. Okay, that looks a little bit better, I think. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, see that down there? That's not enough, though. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we have to add more here. Look how pink this is getting right here. It's almost like it's getting like on my fingertips like this. It's really picking up some of that ink. I think I like that lighter mist in there. Let's go a little bit more like that down there. Okay. I'm breaking up. This one was a little bit harsh like that, which I thought would look good, but I'm liking the kind of this I don't know, whatever water edge of the water mist a little bit more. I'm liking the imagery kind of lighter. Surprisingly so. I thought we would have to go really dark to um, to harmonize with this super loud background. But maybe it's not dark that we needed so much was opacity, you know? So let's give it a try here. All right, let's see here. Yeah, that looks better. This one right here, I don't know why I have that angle like that. What happened there? Let's see. Watch this, where I keep adding this and adding this and adding this. So all of a sudden we don't see the pine trees anymore, and it's just back to white clouds on red. All right, now that's a little bit too much now. Let's do that reverse cotton ball type of a experiment. I need a new cotton ball. I mean, it might dry a lot darker looking because it's over the top of the black, you know? But let's just remove some of it right now. Okay, so you're just tapping into it like so. I don't want to tap into it so much that I'm like removing the impression of the tree there or something like that. But you can just tap into it. Like I said, this Brilliance ink isn't drying so fast. There we go, right there. That's a little bit better. Okay, so let's take a look, get our bearings here. All right, like that. Look at the difference between the white, how it looks over the top of the StazOn, and that white pigment ink over the top of the red foil. It's like, this is like white on here. On top of the StazOn has sealed off the red, but this is really, it's like physically merging with some of that red foil on there. And having it bleed off. So I'm sure that white in there is no longer white. It's not just a translucent white where you see some of the red showing through, and that's why it looks pink, which is happening to a degree, but it's also just it's physically merging with it, I'm sure, because I know that because it's doing that right here on the cotton ball too. So, all right, so here's some different angles like this. Here's with the Brilliance ink too. Brilliance inks, I mean, it's not just white, but they have a little bit of that sheen to it. So when you go like that, you see how reflective that Brilliance ink is. Not that that's, the purpose of why I'm using it. I'm using it for its drying capabilities in there. All right, so let's see. Is this cardstock different to stamp than the regular mirror? I I wouldn't say so, Linda, except the silver and gold cardstocks. I don't have any, like, gold isn't bleeding off onto my Brilliance ink, or water-based media that I'm applying on there. So there might be some um, a little bit of a difference there. I can't feel any tactile difference though, stamping directly. If I was directly stamping onto this, I don't feel too much difference between making impressions directly on this cardstock. Um, so nothing really discernible between that. Of course, way different again. If anyone's just joined in, it's way different than again the printable vinyls or say the recollection style of either holographic or foil cardstocks. This one's just, you can see it's real textured on here. And again, it's real cheap too. But I love it though, because, it has a little bit of tactile kind of porous nature to it for being a foil. But again, it's just not as reflective as something like this. You can see that this one right here is just, it's just so much more coated and reflective. So this one's much more akin to the silver, the silver and gold one, the craft gift boutique, the gift boutique packs. And someone just showed me the latest gift boutique pack of holographic too. That looks like it has a different patterning to it. It's like, oh my god, do I need another pack of 60 sheets of entirely new holographic type of thing? I might have to get it. I don't want to. But I don't know, I might have to. I'm looking for something down here. We need some kind of offset kind of focal point down here. I'm looking for like a fisherman or something like that. I need to really clean my area here. The scale of this, wouldn't be too good. I have this other fisherman that would be ideal in here. Yeah, you can stamp something like that down there. Nah, I don't want to stamp down. I need something bigger and bolder. Or, word stamp in here would be really great too. I don't know if it would stand out though, because I've really cut down the contrast in this reflected area by adding all that white pigment ink in there. All right, I might have to figure out something later on. I don't know, some birds over here. I need to make this a little bit more three, kind of rule of thirds type of element in here. It's not going to do it though, but I need to have something like over here, like a focal point in the water or something like that, or a quote stamp like over here, in here. But I just wanted to test out the that stays on. So, okay, so it happened, right? And it happened just like I thought it would. I didn't know it happened in the spruce trees like that, but when I looked at it again, it's like, oh, yeah, that there is a little bit of transfer of that stays on black on top of the dried or wet floating Brilliance ink on here, because again, this type of surface, just is not porous at all. So it removed those areas, but I think we could live with it in terms of a look. Just know what you're getting into. Like this tree right here, it's not stamped on there, but it is stamped in that bare area. And again, it's going to be different than if we just stamp on there and put the white over the top of it, something like that. But I think we can add on, like I said, I think it'd be cool to add, do that rip paper towel thing and to add like another cloud in front of some trees like that. It might look fairly interesting. But I think this is made, doing applications like this, I think it has made somewhat this paper, this super dark reddish foil. Hey, I don't know if I have my first scene that I did on this foil. I didn't finish it off because it just got too loud and I couldn't see my imagery stamped in here. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I thought I still had it on my desk here, but adding that white down there, I think it's going to, work fairly well. And again, I know I went kind of crazy with it on here because I have a lot of those things, but just a simple type of application like this, might look good in a smaller format like it. Like I said, this one's 5x7, so it's almost like a half page like this. But again, mirror card type of situation, you know, with those tones like that. I love how those tones are moving through that. And I love how in these mirror card situations, I really cut down a lot of the viewable, the visible area of that foil again, just because it's so loud. And this, in this case, it's really dark. You know, it's the red one. On a pink like this, I wouldn't have to apply so much of it because, you know, there's not going to be quite as much contrast in there. But yeah, like that. I would have went a little bit lower. I would have had this one varied a little bit more. I would have, you know, with this cloud line like this, I would have brought it down a little bit more. So it would have been varied on here a little bit more too. It's kind of, you know, there's a little bit of variation, but it's a little bit too symmetrical. Or I would have done like clouds like coming down like this and down like that maybe, like at an angle like that to make it a little bit more dynamic, I think. But, you know, this is testing media here, so like I said, it looks like we're going to be removing media if we're using, you know, StazOn ink over the top of foil. And that goes for this type of silver and gold foil too. It'll do a reverse impression. You can use it strategically too. Okay, so what I mean by that, you can add some clouds in here, which would be kind of cool. Or let's say up here, let's say, it doesn't have to be on the red foil either, okay? But let's say you're doing something in this area up here and you have a, you know, a stamp that says, I don't know, whatever, peace or something like that. You take that stamp, dry and clean, rubber, just bare rubber or whatever, bare clear stamp or something like that. I don't know if the clear stamp would work as much because the rubber stamps are a little bit more, they adhere a little bit more. But you can stamp into those areas like that and then remove it, and then you would have that word stamp reversed out within like a cloud like that. And I think that would look really cool. You'd have it, you know, where, you know, you'd have a holographic looking word stamp in areas like that. And it apparently, I don't know if it would remove it really super cleanly, like this one didn't, you know, here, but I mean, if it didn't, you would get, you know, enough of a removal with some of that holographic quality within the typography like that. And again, this one was like slathered in black ink, you know what I mean? I think you would get a cleaner reverse impression just with a clean stamp like that. Okay, maybe moisten it a little bit, you know, before you like clean it off, where you're doing that reverse impression in there with just, you know, with a freshly cleaned stamp, not moist or anything like that, but just a little bit of, you know, residual moisture from having cleaned it off, and that might give us a really good look like that. So you can use it strategically like that, you know, just the fact that, you know, this is a non-porous surface and you're going to get those types of looks like that. So I don't know, just in theory like that. But I think this looks pretty good in a mirrored situation like this red one like that, you know, up there. And again, if you use this red one kind of vertically like that, you can take advantage of these, you know, you wouldn't have the trees like that. You would have the trees going up this way, but, you know, it can have that kind of northern lighty look like that. And if you're doing it in a mirror card situation, it would be reflecting down in that water like so. So that being said, I'm going to do that northern light type of thing with this one right here. I've cut it, instead of having it horizontal like this, I cut it vertically. So you'd have these bands like that, you know, going for these light pillars like that. Look at that. That light pillars they don't match up right here. Isn't that weird? It's not mirroring. They're offset with different colors between the mirrored area. You think it would just be a mirror for that. So I don't know. Isn't that weird? Maybe it's more mirror. Oh my God, look at that. If you go like that, it's like the opposite colors. Huh. It's like this is like bending that white light right there down here. Oh my God. That is so bizarre like that. Oh, and see this right here? This area right here is reflecting back up into this area. So see that little streak going off at an angle like that? That's this thing reflecting back up into here. Oh my God, that is so bizarre. I don't know if our eyes can take it. Um, the formula is it's too much for my little brain to handle. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? That is that is too much. That's too much. Uh, there's too many possibilities there to let this one go. So silver foil with the pink one, the pink holographic thing like that. I don't know. We gotta do something with this. Can we stamp? You can just stamp like word stamps over the cross, like really bold word stamps on there, you know. Like if you have like a block lettering happy birthday, stamp it out in white or something like that in there. Oh my God, that is so weird like that. Yeah. So this is just doing this right here. This is cooler looking than this. So, you know what I mean? Toss all your stamps out. We don't need them anymore. We can get a cooler looking card without anything. I'm just joking, of course. All right. Let's see. I'm sorry I haven't been reading these notes here. For anyone that's joined in, hello to you. I missed some, no, some of you joining in here. Hello to you all. Good evening, good morning, in some cases, maybe. Alicia has put herself on a crafting challenge, spending freeze for 6 months. Except for Alicia and that, yeah, that's a crafting challenge free, spending free. This is, these are like, Stampscapes are more like staples, like food. Or it's not, you're not buying things, you're investing in, like emotional well-being. It's, it's scientifically, verified that stamp, the quality of life testing that people, they do like for countries and stuff like that. It's like higher with Stampscapes applications like that. So it's like a health investment, like I don't know, like a kale smoothie. uh, a healthy, it's begging for a healthy application of white brilliance. Northern Lights, yeah. So someone mentioned Northern Lights or light pillars. I've never heard of light pillars before. So with this type of paper right here, look up light pillars on like Google or something like that and click images, and you'll see like these pillars going up in the sky that are like light pillars. I mean, it's like what I was mentioning to someone. It's like these are like Northern Lights on steroids. But then when I saw those pillars, it's like, oh yeah, that looks more like light pillars to me. So again, let's see. Let's take a look at this thing. Keep in mind, those different types of compatibility types of things. And like I said, when you find things that, work and don't work in some cases, some types of things don't work for the applications that we set out to use them for, but sometimes it might work in a different type of sense. Like I said, maybe stamping something out like a word stamp in here in ink, you know what I mean? It won't look as good as if it were stamped out and reversed out. So we can suddenly use that strategically for that type of purpose right there. And suddenly you get this reversed out image like a word stamp that looks like you've stamped it out in foil because you've removed the opacity or translucent application of the ink that's on there, and you've revealed, the the surface again. So, and if it's like a dynamic surface like that again too, then you suddenly have this dynamic looking, word stamp, that you've utilized in there. So it's kind of interesting. Sam Hawkins, their eyes and brains are overstimulated by color. Yeah, I hear you. That's why I kind of block off some of this right here. When I'm stamping on some of these like this and I'm making my impressions in these areas like this without the white, sometimes I have a hard time seeing because there's so much light being reflected. Like I said, I have a gazillion watts of light here on my desk here, but it's really kind of striking. So it's again, it's like trying to tame the beast like that. Like I said, I over tamed in here, but I wanted to see how these impressions were going to look on there, so I had to go a little bit overboard for this. But we can find out, what works on here and what doesn't, kind of in a very, you know, bold, a very apparent way like that, right? You know what I mean? If we just did a couple little impressions on here, it'd be hard to see what was going on. So I tend to go with, the boldest type of imagery in here, coupled with a very spindly, airy type of design like that. So I have the both kind of extremes in there. As far as that goes. One of the things that we could try sometimes is, just doing everything, just doing all white down there and doing like a reverse impression in there. You know what I mean? It's, I don't know. We're already not going for realism when we're using, these types of surfaces anyway. It's much more of a stylized type of look, but sometimes they look really cool like that. So, I don't know, kind of play around with things and, I don't know, kind of see, what if things aren't very as completely apparent as far as what you're going to do with them. I don't know. I think our subconsciouses, tend to kind of work the problem or whatever. And, you might come up with some sort of kind of new, kind of all new type of application. See, I like that little area up there in that sky like that. Blocked off a little bit too much of it. Like I would have some of this going down in my trees like that. I think that would look better. I can still do that. I can remove, some of this white pigment ink. I can rub it off like that. But I don't know. Like I said, this is an experiment here. So anyway, all right. Yes, Stampscapes are necessities. Right. Rather than going for therapy of any sort, emotional, psychological, etc., like that. So. Yes. So anyways, thanks again for checking in, logging into this live stream. I learned a pretty good amount doing this experiment here. My hypothesis was reasonably accurate. One of the things I didn't do on here though, okay, which I'm completely forgot about until right now is, since we have to spray seal this white anyway, maybe what you do is you apply the clouds down like that and you spray seal it, right? And then you come in with your StazOn ink, because StazOn will adhere to a spray sealant coated surface with no problem, okay? So if you want to adhere things like that, maybe you spray seal it first and then you do impressions over the top of it, and that way you should be able to get some nice clean impressions if you're going to do it in whatever color, black in this case, and maybe that's that's another test that I'm going to have to do. I think that the spray sealant would adhere reasonably well. I guess it could be said though that StazOn ink, when it dries and adheres really fast. You might adhere it like that. The StazOn ink could dry, as you're holding it down even for like a couple seconds, and you remove it. And maybe it is removing off some of that now spray sealed white pigment ink on there. I don't know, but we'll have to give it a shot and test it out. So Alicia's getting, November 12th. That was you got it marked on the calendar there, huh? Well, all right, sounds good. You can get some good ideas, as far as that when that day comes there. We need a little bird up here or something like that, a little eagle flying up in that corner like that too, or something like that. Like I said, a little fisherman down here or something of that sort. I need something a little bit bold on here to finish this card off. I'll think about it. I'll let that subconscious kind of think about it. And like I said, remember, if you learned anything from this, if you do something and it doesn't work out as you thought it would, just work with it and come up with a solution where that will harmonize in with the rest of it and come up with your reason of why you did it very purposefully and strategically afterwards. And you'll have that really good, you'll be getting your, 4 or 5 year, college art education in no time, in terms of your critiquing abilities. All right, good night, everyone. Thanks again for joining in. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Maybe I'll come on with another stream or something like that. There's so many other experiments to do here. It's like Linda was saying, there's so many different surfaces now and so many different combinations of surfaces and whatever methodologies to use with them, and sequencing, I guess I should say, that there's a lot of things to check out and to test out, so we'll find out some good combinations for everyone, and we'll, do some, we'll utilize them in some cards strategically, and we'll try to, cut through some of the processes that are unnecessary to come up with some quick card applications for these all of these cool different types of papers that, we have these days that are, whatever at our disposal or whatever. All right. So good night, everyone. Thanks again.